Yes, there we go. Hey, Joe, so great to see you again. How are you doing?
Good, nice to see you again.
Listen, you always shock and thrill and excite me whenever you put something out, and this one creeped me out. Oh my goodness,
Yeah.
We have lots to talk about. It was inevitable, Joe, that someone was going to take this on, and I'm glad it was you. How did it all get started? I mean, there's just so much to unpack with conspiracy theories.
Yeah, well, I've always been interested in the nature of truth. I mean, after all, wrongful conviction, which is the thing that I'm most fascinated and spent the most time on, that is about the nature of truth. I mean, you got two sides, and one version of the truth is obviously completely false. When I read some of the Atlantic reporting on this, they had an online series called Shadowland. It just deeply touched me because they were confirming my fears, which is the mainstreaming of conspiracy thinking. But instead of taking the usual approach and joining in the chorus of detractors and pointing fingers and name calling, I wanted to send some teams out into the world and embed with people who believe things that, are the opposite of what I believe, just to understand how they got here, because we are on a path, I think, that's going to lead to political violence if we don't get a handle on it, because the country has divided into two camps.
Yeah.
We vilify each other to a degree we've never seen before. We name call and treat each other as two-dimensional caricatures, both sides. And unless we get a handle on that, I think we're headed to real trouble. I mean, not to sound overly simplistic, or Pollyannish, but American democracy is based on the idea of people with different views and interests and agendas coming together and agreeing what's best for the collective. And the social and political discourse in this country is at an all-time low, and that's not happening. And people look up and say the sky is red on very fundamental issues, and that's just dangerous for society. How did we get here? So that's what the show partially explores. How do we get here? And the other thing I hope the show does is just to provoke a dialogue to try to understand and to come back to a place where we see our commonalities more than we see our differences, or this country is headed down a very slippery slope, in my opinion.
No,
it's already heading down.
There's no question about it. I mean, I'm speaking to you from Toronto in Canada, and we're your best friends, but things are happening here too, and it's really, really scary. How do you, though, as a documentarian, I always wonder this, keep kind of a neutral attitude? You come in with an attitude like, I know how I feel. You might be crazy, but I got to keep that, keep my feelings to myself. How hard is that?
It is very hard, and the other, but it's really, I've tried to do that throughout my career, and it's increasingly out of favor to allow the audience to come to their own conclusion by just presenting information. In documentary, that kind of multiple point of view, which was classic cinema verite, is increasingly out of favor. Paradise Lost, the original Paradise Lost, about the wrongful conviction of the West Memphis Three. I allowed viewers to come to their own conclusion, and 20% of the audience thought it was a film about guilty teenagers, which is not my point of view. But by allowing the audience to come to its own conclusion, I feel like it's much more persuasive when you come to the right conclusion, because the people who thought that they were innocent really, felt it to such a degree that they started a movement to get them out of prison. The danger with this kind of a show, and the line I had to tread, is, there's a lot of dangerous conspiracy theories that are talked about in the series, and we certainly don't want to give oxygen to those conspiracy theories. So we do contextualize a lot of the conspiracy theories, because, for example, we profile one guy who believes vaccine cures and the vaccine and other COVID cures are, a conspiracy, and that all you have to do is chlorine dioxide, which is bleach. And I certainly don't want.
We know where that came from.
Right. I certainly don't. Exactly. I certainly don't want the audience, anyone watching the show, to leave the show thinking it's okay to drink chlorine dioxide. So my usual approach of allowing people to come to their own conclusion was a little, a little modified for this. But to answer your basic question, you keep your opinions to yourself, and you try to find the humanity in everybody. Whether I'm talking to Whitey Bulger in prison for my Whitey documentary, or or somebody who is just a person working in a grocery store, I've always tried to approach people with trying to treat them as three-dimensional human beings, and I think we all need to do that, or we're going to find ourselves engaging in political violence in this country.
I wonder, over the years, you looked, news used to be news and entertainment was entertainment, and now it's all kind of meshed together, and we use news as our entertainment now. It doesn't matter what it is, but also, do you think now that we have this social media, that it's really fueled the fire more for things like this?
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think, conspiracy thinking is not new. It's always existed.
Right.
But it's always been on the fringes. I think there are two major factors which has really pushed it into the mainstream. Three, actually. The first is, there was a time, as you referred to, where the networks where there was a couple of news networks in this country. This is before cable, and the line between news and entertainment was there was a very clear line. The news was the news, and the rest of the network was about profit making, and that line became very blurry. News became big business, particularly with the explosion of the cable universe and the 24-hour news cycle, and all of a sudden news became a profit center, which means it was ratings driven, ad driven, and that opened the door to lots of opinion, replacing the news. And I think that was one trend. And then social media. I mean, the idea that I can pick up my phone and connect with anybody I want and find any bit of information that I want. When I was a kid, the only people who had personal communicators were the guys on Star Trek. So
it's true.
It's an amazing device, and the fact that you can just, instead of waiting until I get home to pull out my encyclopedia to understand what something is, you do it instantaneously. I mean, that's other people don't appreciate just how amazing that development has been, and it's only been in the last 15 years or so. But the downside to that is this massive information dump from all sources, unregulated, with all sorts of agendas. And so now we look to confirm our biases instead of being educated. And an awful lot of misinformation out there. And the third trend that really accelerated things was COVID, because with COVID, obviously the first year of COVID in particular, when you're isolated, you want to feel a sense of connection, you want to feel a sense of belonging. That's what people who believe in these conspiracy theories, half the time it's just about, trying to make sense of their world. And we're susceptible to these conspiracy theories. How to get out of this mess, I can't tell you. I'm not smart enough for that. I just want people to talk. We don't talk to one another. The left and the right, are equally responsible. Less opinion, more facts, and a little more human empathy, I think, ultimately is the solution.
100%. I couldn't agree more. Well, listen, it's always my pleasure to have the opportunity to talk to you, and thank you for, keep bringing us these compelling series. And wow, you really outdid yourself with this one. So I can't even wait for the next one, and we'll talk to you for that as well.
All right, super. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much for your time, Joe. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
You too.
Thanks. Bye-bye.